In the heart of the nation's capital stands the Holocaust Museum. This is a reminder of the terrible events that occurred in the years of 1933 to 1945. During that time, the German Nazi regime rose to power. A man named Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. He made sure that Jews were exposed to progressively harsher punishment than the rest of the world. This led to the death of around 6 million Jews. The Nazis killed 5 million non-Jews as well. After Germany's fall in World War I, Germany elected a new leader, Hitler. German media proclaimed that, quote, "The Jews are our misfortune," end quote. They used the Jews as scapegoats for their own troubles. By 1934, Hitler was in full command of Germany. The regime rounded up as many Jews as possible. First, the Nazis decided whether or not prisoners were useful or could help in factories with manual labor. Not many people ended up in factories, so the rest of them were sent to concentration camps. This meant death for the Jews and those who assisted them. In the camps, the Nazis tied them up and tortured them if they misbehaved. Any people who were caught smuggling Jews to safety, providing a safe sanctum, or helping Jews in any way were punished as harshly, if not harsher, than the Jews. What you're about to discover are some of the surprising individuals, communities, and even countries who took a stand against the Nazis. Some of the people that helped the Jews saved more lives than they know. They set up systems and passageways to help the Jews stay safe and escape to places like Switzerland. Switzerland took in nearly 30,000 refugees. The people we are taking a look at, and people like them, are responsible for those great numbers. Our story starts in Wellesley, Massachusetts, with an American family.
Martha and Waitstill Sharp lived in Wellesley, Massachusetts. Waitstill was the minister of a Unitarian church and was elected, along with Martha, to help assist refugees escape Europe during the time of the Nazi persecution. They had 2 children that they had to leave with friends in order to do their work helping immigrants. The Sharps' task was to register immigrants, help people find jobs in order to emigrate, securing releases from prisons, and arranging travels to safe destinations. They set sail on February 4th, 1939. On their way to Europe, they stopped and set up a network that allowed other people to help refugees as well. They worked mostly with single immigrants. As the Sharps continued their work, it became more and more dangerous. On March 15th, 1939, the Sharps burned all documents and notes they had kept. From this day on, they would no longer keep records. Gestapo, German secret police, closed down their office in the end of July. They were in even more danger, but this didn't stop them from doing their job. On one occasion, Martha Sharp helped 35 people escape to England. Of the 35 people, there were journalists, political leaders, and 2 children whose parents had committed suicide earlier. They repeated the same process for 6 years, and an estimated 260,000 refugees immigrated. 90,000 of those were Jews. Many of these refugees were able to immigrate because of Martha and Waitstill Sharp.
In 1928, a man named Oskar Schindler had a job working in his father's farm machinery business in Zatavi. He later became the factory manager. Schindler began working with the Office of the Military Foreign Intelligence of the German Army in 1936. In February 1939, he joined the Nazi Party. A businessman that seized an opportunity. He seemed an unlikely candidate to become a hero. During World War II, Schindler rescued more than 1,000 Jews from deportation to Auschwitz. Oskar Schindler was a factory manager, therefore he needed workers. He made a deal with high-ranking members of the Nazi Party that Jews that were working in his factory were immune to deportation, and more importantly, death. Jews were subject to the brutal conditions of the Plaszow concentration camp. That's the camp Schindler took his workers from. Schindler intervened constantly with bribes. In late 1944, the SS decided not to deport his Jewish workers because Schindler had advertised them as essential to the war effort. Schindler died in Germany, penniless and almost unknown, in 1974. Many of those he saved financed the transfer of his body for burial in Israel. In 1993, the United States Holocaust Memorial Council presented the museum's Medal of Remembrance to Schindler. This medal honors deserving recipients for extraordinary deeds during the Holocaust. Emily Schindler accepted the medal on behalf of her ex-husband at a ceremony in the museum's Hall of Remembrance.
The entire country of Denmark resisted the Nazis during the Holocaust. This led to Danish Jews surviving Hitler's rule in the Holocaust because the Danes regarded their Jewish neighbors as countrymen. They believed there was no segregation between them. There is a popular legend that when the Nazi Party started rounding up Danish Jews, the King of Denmark wore the Star of David himself to protect the Jews. The legend also says that he encouraged other citizens to do the same. However, that isn't true. On September 28, 1943, George Duckwitz, a German diplomat, secretly informed the Danish resistance that the Nazis were planning to deport the Danish Jews. This is when the Danish people quickly responded by getting all of the Danish Jews on boats to the Kattegat Sea to ferry over to Switzerland. The country of Denmark helped nearly 7,200 people out of the country to Switzerland. Switzerland had told Denmark they would accept refugees. Plateau du Vivre-Lignon was a small village located in France. This village played an important role during the Holocaust. Farmers from this village resisted the Nazi regime by hiding many Jews and refugees in their farms. By hiding Jews and refugees in their farms, they were risking their lives and the lives of their families. The village was very welcoming to all Jews and refugees. The village and their farms were very isolated, which made it an effective place to hide. This way, it was much harder for the Nazis and for the French police to find them. Farmers weren't the only ones who took a stand and resisted the Nazis. André Trocmé, the pastor in the village, preached nonviolence and was an active pacifist. Even students in the local school took a stand for their Jewish classmates by writing a letter of protest to the youth department of the French government. The letter said that Nazis shouldn't imprison people just because they are Jews. The students wrote this letter because Nazis had come into their classrooms and took Jewish children to concentration camps. In the 1940s, the Nazis invaded France and took control of half of it. Jews and refugees were forced to hide in trains in order to not be recognized. With the help of this village, many Jews and refugees were saved.
Many small individual and communal acts of courage and resistance saved many lives. History teaches us these lessons for all time, if we will learn from the events of the past. Today, when we encounter lives that are threatened in our society, we can take inspiration from those who took a stand against the Nazi regime, and be ready to take our own stand against injustice wherever it occurs.